You're listening to the Variety Sports Network, your home for the best sports podcasters and live shows.
And we are live here on the Fatboy FadeAway Sports Podcast. Joining you here January 29th, 2023 championship weekend. We'll obviously deep dive into a little bit of NFL here. But first, I'm joined here by my co-host, as usual, Tyler McGurk. Tyler, how are we doing?
I'm a little nervous. I got to pick my stomach, but I'm ready to go. I'm excited for 12 o'clock noon. Eagles-Niners should be a good one.
Are you glad you didn't have to wait till 3:30 today? Are you glad it's Thursday?
I kind of wish it was the night game. I'm being on the West Coast. Like, I just prefer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good for the Niners. The Philly fans can't get all riled up and as drunk as they would be if it was the night game. But I do appreciate like the primetime spot on Sunday night a little more than the 12 o'clock noon one.
That's for sure. The police officers probably in Philly do appreciate that, though, over there. As you can see below us, we got a guy join with us, Casey, not my brother, the third co-host. We got a different one with us, a special guest this week. We got Casey with us this week. How we doing, my man, joining us? Glad you could jump on with us.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really happy to be here. Also excited for the NFL playoffs, the remaining games. Happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, when we started doing this podcast thing, and we kind of jump on Twitter trying to promote it, that we kind of meet different people along the way. And you've been one of the people I've kind of just interacted with once in a while over Twitter, followed your stuff on your YouTube channel. Obviously, both A's fans, we have both Raiders, so we like the same team. So that was an instant connection there. I always enjoy your takes there at Twitter. I always like how you kind of try to rile up the other fan bases as well. We'll get into rivals here in a second. But maybe you can just give us a quick shout out about who you are, your YouTube channel. Like I said, like you kind of go to games, you'll edit those videos. Very impressive, those videos that you edit as well, by the way. Just kind of give us a little bit about your channel and maybe a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, my name's Casey. I'm 17. I'm currently a senior in high school in the Bay Area. I started YouTube like September of 2020, at least this iteration of my channel. And like you kind of hit the points. I love going to games. That's like one of my passions, but I also love documenting it, meeting new people. And so, editing those videos into like sort of vlogs and, kind of sharing my experiences at different stadiums is something I love doing. I love visiting stadiums. And then of course, like you said, I like having takes, having opinions, having analysis. And so, whether it's recapping games or talking about history of a team, that's something I love doing. And I feel like, for you and me, liking sort of like a unique set of teams that like are no longer close together kind of brings us together. So that's kind of what made my channel, I guess, like captivating for a lot of people. So that's why I kept it going. And so, I've been an A's, Raiders, Sharks, and Warriors fan for my whole life. And that's kind of brought me to have this like dedication to this channel. So it's been a really wild ride. Yeah,
it's really cool. See, I think that's the thing that we'll get into your video as well. It kind of caught my attention was like, just the fan base here, like kind of like, we've been brought through it a little bit. The Oakland fan base recently, drug through the mud, they say. I kind of want to get also, Tyler, you got any additional questions for him there to start out?
Just watching your videos, preparing for this, very impressive. I didn't know you were only 17. That makes it even like another level of all the potential you have. I enjoy the videos. We'll get into the movie that you put together. Excellently done. Just good job. I don't have much to say outside of that on it, but good job. Keep up the good work. I'm very impressed.
And one quick question I had a note here for him. This is probably a while back. How many damn jerseys do you have? I'm always impressed by the jersey collection I see. I like this guy must work at Lids or something. It goes on. I'm impressed with it. I'm impressed.
Well, funny you bring that up because I actually have been offered a job at Lids like 3 or 4 times because I always walk in there like decked out and everything, and they're like, this guy knows what he's talking about with like jerseys and hats and stuff. But I have definitely over like 100 because I don't know, like I don't have that many expenses, but I do have a job, and so it's pretty nice. And I've been buying like just ever since the NBA just started doing like 5 per year, I was like, I need to get everyone. And so I made that my goal. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you an exact number, but definitely in the triple digits.
Very impressive jersey game. Very impressive hat game, as we can see behind there. So, all right, let's kind of keep it going here as we always do on the show. Like you said, we'll get into your video as well. We'll deep dive into the A's a little bit as well, because that's one of my biggest passions as well. But we could talk about that all day long, I know here. So let's kind of keep the show going here. We'll start out here with what we usually do on the show, our Wake and Hot Take. And I thought it was appropriate with you on with the Niners playing this week, us both being fans of the Raiders. Obviously, Tyler, opposite kind of teams as us here. I kind of feel an instinct, though, today to root for the Niners, like over the Eagles. Is that okay? I was trying to, this is kind of my hot take. I was thinking, yes, it is. In this scenario, it is. Tyler, am I wrong in this scenario? Is it not okay for me to root for a rival?
No, it's fun, especially if it's like the Eagles or some team way out east. I always root for my coach before I'm gonna go, like just because of the biases you see. Like I have no issue. I root for the A's when they play the Yankees or the Boston Red Sox just because the media cover. Like I have no problem rooting for your rival. I wouldn't do it if they're playing like a team I care about, but yeah, I don't see the issue with it.
This was a tough one for me because when I was younger, I would have said no. I would be like, no, because there was times where I would not have, I didn't want you guys to win the World Series against the Angels. Like I did not want my friends to be happy in that regard. I did not root for you guys to win those. You know what I mean? So there's part of it. What's your take on that, Casey? A little younger than us. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm a firm believer in like you can do whatever you want. Like if you want to root for a rival, like that's on you.
Yeah.
But I also think I wouldn't personally do it. I guess it depends on like the circumstance. Like regular season, I'm gonna have a lot different opinion than playoffs. I am rooting for the Eagles for that reason. I don't want to see like the whole Bay Area rubbing it into me. So honestly, yeah, I mean, I think you can do whatever you want, but like for me personally, I'm not rooting for a rival in the playoffs. I just can't do it. I tell my dad all the time because he's been a Raiders fan for years. And I tell all my family, like, I wish I could root for the Niners. I wish it would be so much easier for me, like proximity wise, but I just can't do it. Like something about it. It's just, I can't bring myself to doing it. And so I feel like that kind of applies to other teams as well, that are rivals with my teams in every sport. So I just can't do it.
I feel like you could look at this from a unique perspective. Okay, because I'm 38. You said you're 17. I went to Raiders games with my dad when they moved back here to Oakland. My dad got season tickets. He stopped going when they moved in 2016. I had Niner fans ask me at that point, like, "Hey, are you going to root for that?" I was like, "No." It's like that's not my team. But I do notice as they did go to Vegas and there was that kind of separation from the city. Not that I necessarily am like wearing Niners gear rooting for them. I have noticed I have softened up a little bit, though, Casey, in that regard. I think it's more that they moved away from Oakland for me, though, in that regard.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, I'm kind of the same way. Like, when they first moved, I was like definitely a lot more heartbroken. And now I've kind of gotten used to it. Like, I went to Allegiant Stadium, I liked it, but I also am not truly over it. I'm still like, that's still my team that's gone. So, yeah.
It's funny we talked about perspective with a lot of these things. Tyler, go ahead.
I wouldn't root for a division rival. Outside of my conference, a team I rarely play. I would there's certain teams I would never root for the Dodgers. Like that would never happen. Like so, there's certain teams there's no way I'd root for. But as far as Oakland, like I don't mind seeing my friends happy. I guess and I don't blame it. When I was younger, I definitely would never have rooted for the A's or the Raiders. But now I just. It doesn't bother me anymore.
Liar. You smiled when the Royals beat the playoff.
I probably did, but I wasn't rooting for it. I mean, John Lester could throw to first base.
Oh, that son of a gun. Yeah, that wasn't that trade alone was ridiculous at that point over there. We talked. So this is always just an interesting question for me where I look at sports at perspective and just like how people kind of judge things. Because there's people out there that would just, no way. We're never rooting for this team no matter what. So I always think given the Bay Area, it's just a different fan base at times than you're like New York's or you're in Texas area. So it's good to get your guys' perspective on that. I do feel like with the Giants, though, that's a team I would really have a hard time rooting for. Like for me, like more so the Niners, I could see myself rooting for than the Giants. Like for me, that would be harder. And like the Kings, like they're not a rival. We'll get into that a little later. Like that's fine with me. Like those are the type of things that are fine in that area. The Giants, though, oh, that's tough. I couldn't do that one. That would be. I'm always rooting against them. Sorry, Tyler, on that one.
No, I don't care who you root for. Is there a bigger rival? Or Casey, I'm asking you specifically. Do you hate the Niners or the Giants more?
I hate the Niners more just because I feel like baseball, it's like, there's 162 games. So like rooting against the Giants every time is like, a little bit tedious considering there's so many games. And I do like going to Giants games. I don't like going to Niners games. It's just too far. And like the stadium is super nice and it's pretty easy to get to. So yeah, I think I like the Giants a little bit more, but I don't by any means like them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think for me, it was an announcer thing. I just took pleasure in Kruko and Kite being disappointed, Tyler. I think that was part of it for me. That guy there. All right, let's keep it moving to your team here. Let's go. Unless you guys, did you have a Wake and Hot take this week? I didn't even ask you.
I did not come up with
so
one.
Let's get to your Niners Eagles. They play here a little bit. You did your podcast on the TNB. You did a great job on there breaking down the game. You got a couple Eagles fans on there with your point. Savage and Ryan did a great job with their input. Obviously, both of them taking the Eagles in the game. Brian dropping some one-liners unexpectedly in that podcast as well. That surprised me. Got the noon kickoff, like you said. You're playing them. The thing that's interesting about this matchup to me, guys, is that you have very rarely nowadays, like you have these teams did not play this year, so there's no history to this year in their matchup. And then you have a team in the Eagles that I would say has been the best team from the start of the year, right? They were the best team, and they still finished with the best record. But then you have the Niners, who we could say is the best team the last 2.5 months. So it's such a unique matchup to me. It's so opposite than AFC, where we had the rematch last year. Tyler, you said you're full of anxious, you're full of nerves here. I have it down there. You've won 12 straight, incredibly, 7 with Purdy. I don't know, your thoughts?
I mean, first, the funny stat is the Niners haven't lost since Bryce Harper sent the Phillies to the World Series. That's how long it's been. That's wild to think about. I think the Niners, the defense has to show up, and they have to be able to handle the Eagles' pass rush. If Reddick and Sweat and Jordan Davis and Cox, it's 8 deep, that defensive line with Sue and Levante. It just goes on and on. Like, they have to slow down the pass rush. If they can do that and run the ball a little bit, I think it will open up passing lanes for Purdy, and I think they can win this game about 20-13. I think it'll be low scoring.
Yeah, if it's high scoring, I don't like your guys' chances as much in a game like this. I know that you guys score high, but I just feel like on the road, and you mentioned that their pass rush was like 8 deep. It's pretty crazy there at the Eagles. Casey, you mentioned you're pulling for the Eagles in this sense. Is that just you're rooting for, or you have a gut feeling that you think the Eagles are maybe the better team in this matchup as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think I totally agree with like the Eagles being like the best team probably overall since the get-go of the season. I mean, I am rooting for them, and I honestly, given like the records overall, since just both teams have been like basically equally as good. I mean, the Niners are on a hot streak right now, and so I think they're right now riding this momentum. I think it'll just be interesting to see like how Brock Purdy shows up. Like, he's been really good. Obviously as like just stepping into this role. But I mean, I think the Niners have had some games that they were maybe not super confident in, like the Seahawks game the first half, and then of course like against Dallas, it was probably a little bit closer than they wanted. And so I think. Yeah, I mean, I think the Niners have a good chance. I think the Eagles have a really good chance as well. But I do think I'm going to go with Philly winning this one. And kind of like you said, I don't think it's going to be like super high scoring, maybe like 28-21 type of score. I just think like, given that I'm rooting the Eagles, I'm a little biased, but I also think that like, I think they are maybe a little bit more of a complete team. And I was impressed by their playoff victory as well. So yeah, we'll see.
The thing, Hurts looked a little bit better. That's the thing with it, right? The Giants obviously they beat them 38-7. So, but I thought his arm strength looked fine. He didn't look like the last couple weeks before that where he looked a little hesitant. Tyler, what do you think that the Niners? You've always said that big plays is like the thing that worries you about the Niners defense. Well, obviously the Eagles have 2 big play wide receivers, and I think the Hurts thing. I think some Niners fans are underestimating like Hurts' running ability. Not because if you don't see him in person. And you kind of remember him from Alabama, like he can go for 30 yards and then still run a play. Like it's not like an end of the world thing for him. So that part will be interesting for me too. Like what kind of pass rush are the Niners able to do? Are they going to be rushing 3 with a spy at the defensive end? Are they going to put Warner on a spot? Just kind of how are they going to play out this situation? Do you have any kind of feeling of how you think how the Niners are going to maybe approach Hurts in that regard?
I think they're going to have the DN crash hard on Hurts and hit him every time he does a read option. And if he holds it, then the linebacker will come over the top. And we have Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, who are great tacklers, who should be able to get him down. Obviously, things happen in the NFL. It'll mix something up, and it is a big play for Jalen Hurts. I said this on the TNB podcast, and I want to point out, people were saying the same thing about Dallas going into the game against the 49ers. They looked so good against Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay wasn't that good. And I don't think the Giants are that good. And I think they made the Eagles look better than who they are. I think the Cowboys were the third best team in this conference. So I think, like, the Eagles will be a tough match. They're the best team we've played all year, and I'm excited. This is the game I've wanted all year. But I do think the Giants made the Eagles look a little better than they were, and I think the Niners will be able to slow them down. But as far as stopping Hurts, it's going to be trouble. He's been great all year. He hasn't had any bad games, really.
I'm curious to see with the Niners defense too. I've been saying they're like one of the best defenses, or they have kind of the ability to be an all-time defense. To me, this is a game that they should win second year in a row in the NFC Championship with an all-time defense. Doesn't mean they will win, but to me, in my mind, that's where I'm thinking, okay, this is one you got to be able to kind of get here, especially after last year where they blew that game with the dropped interception at the end from the defensive standpoint there. So, all right, let's keep it moving here to the AFC side of things. We got the Bengals and the Chiefs. Very interesting matchup, even though it's a rematch here. The thing I find interesting is that Burrow's kind of been that kryptonite. Casey, for Patrick Mahomes, what's your initial thoughts of this game here?
Yeah, I mean, not a fan of the Chiefs. I'm definitely rooting for the Bengals, but I definitely do. I mean, I kind of think that like the Chiefs are one of those teams that just it's really hard for them to lose. Like it's just they find ways to win games no matter the adversity. So I honestly am sort of ignoring the headlines of like, Mahomes just never beat Burrow, because I just know that like, whenever the Chiefs are faced with adversity, they usually pull it through. I guess with last year and the year before not happening then, but I think the Chiefs are obviously stacked like on offense, like with weapons that like we didn't really expect to see thrive this year. And I think Mahomes is like carrying the team on his back. And I also think their defense has gotten a lot better. Like Chris Jones has been really good lately. So I think we'll see what happens. I'm going to go with the Bengals winning this just because I am rooting for them. And I also think, given the history, I'll stay consistent, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs won by a lot. But I do think the Bengals have been really good. I mean, they beat Buffalo like that. That's definitely showing that they proved something. So yeah, I got the Bengals. I think it's going to be like a fairly medium scoring game, like maybe like 35-30 or something.
It'd be kind of crazy too if he's able to pull that out again to go 4-0 against them. Then you're really kind of, you know what I mean? Like I think that's, and they're favored, right? Or maybe I think they're favored. They were earlier in the week. I think the Chiefs now are a 1.5 favorite, which on the road is kind of saying you're a favorite for the Bengals in some regards from the Vegas standpoint. Tyler, your thoughts on the game?
Like you said, it's hard to bet against Mahomes. I've done it one time, and it was against the Niners, and he beat us in the Super Bowl, down 10 in the Super Bowl. They are 3-0. Burrow's very good, but if Mahomes is healthy and he comes out and he can move around like normal Mahomes, I will take the Chiefs. But if he starts limping in the second quarter, it's hard I think it'll be hard for the Chiefs to beat the Bengals. So I think it all depends on how he's moving.
The ankle thing will be interesting to see right away. That would be like, to me, that would be like a big factor right away is the ankle if he's moving around. But there is like this factor with the Chiefs, and like you guys both mentioned, they come back. There's no like, they kind of remind me of the Warriors in 2015 that year, or 2016, where they never died in the fourth quarter. They could be down 10 with 4 minutes left. That's just what they remind me of. It does not matter. They can come back at any point if you give them a chance. All right.
And before we didn't even mention Andy Reid, who's probably the best head coach still remaining, maybe in the whole NFL at this point.
Yeah.
So they have that advantage as well.
Yeah, we talked about a lot about Andy Reid last week. Definitely the best coach, I think, in the league. All right, so we have our Super Bowl picks there, who we think is going to go to the Super Bowl there. I wanted to ask you real quick, Casey, since you are a fellow Raiders fan. I know that you weren't a huge it sounded like you were kind of over Carr too at the end of the year.
Yeah, I was. I kind of moved on. Yeah.
And I thought it was fun. I think it was one of your tweets where you said he's been my quarterback my whole life. And I was like, you're right. He's like, he has been there a long time. You know, he was there. I just thought that was kind of like when you said that, I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. Yeah, I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah.
So did you like him at one point? Like how, you know what I mean? You were probably invested in him differently than I was. So how did you look at that kind of part when he left?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question because I kind of had like a love-hate relationship. Like ever since, like he was my quarterback. Like he joined the Raiders when I was 9 years old, 8 years old, something like that. Now I'm going to college next year. So it like, you know, I had that attachment to him as like he was the Oakland Raiders quarterback through, you know, these hard times. They're still in Oakland and then they move. the thing that could never draw me to him is I felt like he was lacking like a lot of the leadership skills that he needed to be a quarterback in the NFL. And I mean, he was a great guy, like he was a great mentor, I think, but I think he just didn't resonate with like a lot of the other players. And so, yeah, I mean, I loved Derek Carr at one point. Like 2016 was like that peak, and I was like, this team was. I thought we were Super Bowl contenders. I was only like 11 years old, but that was like kind of the first part of success that the Raiders had. And then of course he gets hurt, and he never was the same after he got hurt. And so, yeah, I think I probably liked him, most of the time he was on the Raiders. I think I just started to not like him when, they moved to Vegas. I already sort of am moving a little away from the Raiders and mad that they left. And then for them to be losing so much, and especially after this year, I mean, there's not many excuses. I mean, the defense, yeah, it was bad, but I mean, he has Devontae Adams on offense. It's like at that point, if you're not like completing passes all the time to him, like, I mean, you're throwing so many interceptions. I can't really back that up and support him that much.
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot too on here. I mean, I've had some people come at me in the sense of like, well, maybe a lot of it's been on the Raiders organization too, but I'm kind of with you on that same regard that 9 years is 9 years, and it's like, yeah, I mean, they made 2 playoffs. He got hurt. I get it for one, but last year he wasn't phenomenal in that game, and it just feels like everything's so hard for them. It doesn't. Nothing comes easy to them in that regard. So, yeah, I'm with you on that as well with the car. I was just curious to get your perspective on that. Well, especially after that tweet I saw, 9 years old. That's crazy. They were at that point. They were at the car. It shows he's been around for a long time. All right, let's get to our question of the week here, presented by Row One Brand. Use the code VSN20. You'll get 20% off anything in the art gallery. Go check that out. Maybe championship week NFL drawing they have there. Gentlemen, here's the question of the week. Was there any favorite games or memories that you have of Championship Sunday? Any games that stood out to you in the past that you just remember, or maybe just like I said, maybe a memory you were at somewhere and you kind of stood out to you? Tyler, you got any championship games that stood out to you from the past?
I mean, I got some bad memories and some good memories. I'll start with the bad. It's the Navarro Bowman forcing Ahmed Bradshaw to fumble, and they called forward progress being stopped. That one hurt. Some good ones is the Navarro Bowman, probably a PI on Roddy White over the middle against Atlanta in 2012, which sent them to the Super Bowl. That was a good one. Some that don't have to do with the Niners. The Larry Fitzgerald going bonkers against the Eagles for like 153 and 3 touchdowns was just ridiculous. I was like, this guy's the best receiver I've ever seen since Jerry. The way I didn't know he was that fast, and he just went up and got everything. That was one of my favorite just NFC Championship games. And then the Saints versus Vikings, where they absolutely just obliterate Brett Favre. I always enjoy seeing Brett Favre get knocked off his pedestal, and it was fun to see him take a beating. And he threw the typical Brett Favre pick in overtime to blow the game.
He did get destroyed in that game. I think once he got crushed, and then he did throw that crucial pick. You said, Casey, you got one by chance there?
I think the one that comes to mind for me, not super far away from now, but it was Saints Rams, and then that no pass interference call. Like that definitely was so crazy. And then I think also like my first kind of taste of like how exciting the NFC AFC championship games are is Packers Seahawks, when the Packers led by like so much, and there was that fake field goal and for the Seahawks.
That's right.
So I think that, and I also remember I think it was Broncos Patriots, the year of Super Bowl 50. And just remembering, like, who do I root for? Like, I just liked both teams so much. Yeah.
That was, I kind of forgot about that Seahawks one when they were down like 20, like, what was that, like 16-3 or something like that. You're right.
Yeah.
The second half when they made that comeback there. I got a few here. I got the Colts beating the Pats. That's one that stands out to me when they were down 21-3. The Patriots come back to win 38-4 to get to the Super Bowl there. And then I also remember it was 2018 when the Pats came back when the Chiefs came back from 24 to tie it up against the Patriots. And then to me, one of the dumbest penalties of all time was Ford lined up off sides. That game, to me, that just will always stand up because of that game right there. A couple hometown ones. I got Ravens at Raiders. Big Saragusa falling on Richard Gannon. Always got to bring that one up every championship week. That's a tough one. The Raiders lose 16-3. And, of course, Shannon Sharp, once he get like an 85-yard touchdown in that game as well with Mr. Dilford leading the way. Other Raiders ones, of course, I like Raiders-Titans. 41-24 was at that game. Favorite game of all time that was at. And a couple of random ones here I kind of like just stand out as I was a kid, just remembering is that Bucks-Rams one, 11-6, because of the score. And then just thinking because the Rams were so high powered on offense and the Bucs were so bad, and they had the Sean King was in that year, right? I believe that was the Sean King year.
Yeah.
And I couldn't remember, Tyler, wasn't there a receiver that either dropped a ball or like hit the ground? There was some like controversial play.
It was a Bert Emanuel crossing pass over the middle that he caught, and they called it. They went to review it. They called it incomplete. But if you look at the instant replay, the ball doesn't move. It's a wild call that they changed if you look at it again.
And I feel like they changed
But it was a Bert Emanuel catch or non-catch.
I just remember that game standing out because it's 6-3 for so long, right? It was like 5-3, some random score for so long there. So that one I also have on there. And then one that maybe by a Colts hat, just for Casey here in 1996. I got to go Jim Harbaugh, his little run there with the Colts against the Steelers. They almost made it with the Hail Mary at the end. That was kind of like one of the first football significant memories I can really, really remember, where I watched the whole game, watched them through the playoffs. So that one always stood out to me as well. So I always like this time of year looking back at some of the old games and the history of them and that kind of stuff. Yeah, T?
And then there's the Dick Sherman, Michael Crabtree incident that we talked about. Yeah, that one kills me more than any NFC Championship game that I can remember. Just right in the heart.
Dick Sherman, that was my favorite part. I still, my favorite part's when he goes over and tries to shake his hand after that play right there, and then gets to do it with Aaron Andrews. That's what happens when you try to move the sorry-ass receiver like Michael Crabtree. So that's our question of the week there, brought to you by Row One Brand. Like I said, use the code VSN15. Get 20% off in the code there. What's up, guys? You got any other – we got a little comment here. What's up, Mr. Prime, our guy there? Thanks for tuning in, my man. So I think those are some good memories NFL-wise to get into. Maybe this Sunday we'll have a different one. We'll have some new memories created. I feel like with the games that we have on tap, with I would say justifiably, gentlemen, the top 4 teams, probably in the NFL this year. I guess you can throw the Bills in there if you want. I would say no, but I think we're going to get great matchups today. So I think that's all you can ask for on a championship Sunday. So I hope it lives up to the billing for sure.
Before we move on, can I ask you guys a question about if the Chiefs and the Niners win, who are you guys rooting for? Or are you just not watching? Or you'll watch, but you're not rooting. What's going through your head?
I'll let our guests go first there.
I mean, we had that dilemma a couple years ago, and I was rooting for the Chiefs just because I was at a Niners party, and I wanted everyone else to be disappointed. But
I love it, Casey. I love it.
I honestly have no idea. I think because I'm also going on a trip the same day as the Super Bowl, which kind of sucks, and so I might miss part of it. And so I kind of honestly, that's a really good question. I think maybe the Niners, just because I feel like the Chiefs won it last time, so maybe I could just just to even things out, root for the Niners. But it's gonna be really difficult to do that. So yeah, good question.
It's too much red for me in that matchup. It's too much red. Let's get the Bengals Niners again for a third time. I think that's what we want to see. I think that's the best matchup there. Was it Arizona? I said this year, right? The Super Bowl. I think that's where it's at this year. It's Arizona, I believe.
Yeah. It is.
You've never been to a Super Bowl or anything, have you, or anything like that?
No, I haven't.
No, never been to an event like that. All right. Well, I was thinking as you were asking that randomly, just what fan base, what would be the toughest matchup for somebody to root for? If I don't know, just trying to think out there, maybe as a Cowboys fan, if they saw some other two teams matching, just kind of now you got my mind thinking there, Tyler, with that stuff. All right, that was our question of the week there. Like I said, all right, let's keep the show moving here. Kind of hit the half an hour mark here. Appreciate our guy there, Mr. Primetime, tuning in with us here. Let's go to the NBA here. Let's go to the hardwood. Been kind of an up and down season this season, Casey, this year. Warriors have a winning week. They go 2-1. They lose to the Nets Sunday, and kind of just a bad loss. Up 12, blow it late. Just kind of that game to me kind of symbolized a lot of the season so far. It just felt like watching that game. And then Poole, anytime you beat Memphis, right? That feels good. So we'll take that anytime. They end up winning in dramatic fashion at the end, and just the way they won it. It's funny. I coached junior high basketball, and I was asking a high school coach, I was like, you guys don't make those type of defensive mistakes on inbound passes, do you? With your basket, where your side hips or your players are like that. He goes, oh, you'd be surprised. And then sure enough, Zaire Williams just pathetic defensive position at the end of a game. Yeah, have your butt towards the bench. That makes sense. But anyways, the Warriors pull out a win. We'll take that. And then Curry looks himself back from throwing his mouthpiece, gets 35 against the Raptors in that game. Tyler, your thoughts on the Warriors? They're winning week here. Is there a game that stood out there? I'm sure the Memphis one probably rung a bell there.
Definitely the Memphis game, just how everything happened. We saw an ejection. I know, Darren, you were very excited to see it. I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on it. But my biggest takeaway of the whole week is just how Kuminga and DiVincenzo are filling the role as bench players of providing perimeter defense and fitting into the offense a lot better than they were in the first half of the season. I could see us going on a little run right now. I feel like this is the time to get hot and make that run up the standings into the top 6. And I think I just liked what I saw. Even though the New Jersey or the Brooklyn loss was tough, I did like what I saw overall this week.
I gotta go to Mr. Primetime's point there about that they are bipolar this year. That's the problem, right? They're 2-1. They look at a little bit better, but that's kind of the issue. Is they kind of then been regressing back to the mean when they lose these games against Detroit and Charlotte and blow games late against the Nets. And if you've coached AAU, I'm sure you've had a few of those inbounds experience as well on both ends as well. So yeah, I appreciate the comment there. Yeah, Casey, your thoughts on the week? Maybe the Grizzlies. Anything else stand out there to it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely agree with the Grizzlies point there. I mean, it's just that game was crazy. I feel like whenever you play the Grizzlies, it's crazy. And I think Poole, you got to give him credit, especially after like that kind of ambiguous 3-pointer from like way too deep that he had time. Like I didn't really understand why he shot that. And that's
Curry.
Yeah,
he got Curry ejected.
Exactly. Like, he missed a shot and he got Curry ejected, basically. So one thing leads to another. But
at least you didn't punch him in the face, Casey. At least you didn't punch him.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a good week overall. Like, I mean, Toronto, they're not a great team. I think we should be beating them. But I honestly think, it's been a really disappointing season, especially. I mean, we have Warriors fans are kind of spoiled at this point. Like, we expect them to be really good. But I also think it's just this Warriors team reminds me a lot of like the Warriors team 2 years ago that just like couldn't win close games. And, we're also kind of dealing with injuries. Like Wiggins has been like hardly on the court, I feel like. And then also Wiseman has been kind of a disappointment. I feel like after, sitting out a few seasons, he should be back, but that's just my opinion. And I think really the Warriors this week, yes, they look good. And also their upcoming schedule isn't super difficult. They have the Thunder first tomorrow. They have Minnesota. They have the Nuggets, which will be difficult. And the Mavericks will be difficult. But then they have the Thunder again, Trailblazers, Lakers, Wizards. Those are all winnable games to me. So I think, they could go on a little bit of a run, and the West is so wide open right now. The top 3 teams are good, but like if you put the top 3 teams in the West in the East, they're not even near the top, I don't think. So I think they have a shot to do it, and I'm excited to see what this week will bring. I just hope they can stay healthy and keep being consistent. So we'll see.
Yeah, the thing, with Kuminga kind of coming on, that's kind of giving me a little bit more hope than I had like maybe 2 weeks ago. A little bit like, okay, at least maybe we have a guy that's going to step up and give us something different instead of just fighting the same thing. I do find this question kind of interesting you asked here because you brought up Wiseman, you brought up other players. Me and Tyler have talked about it a lot, but what do you think of do you think Green's back? To me, he's the one question mark, right? Like, is he the guy that's going to be back? I'm pretty sure Clay's back. I'm pretty sure Curry's back. Wiggins is back. We know all that. Unless there's some sort of crazy trade, who do we think is the starting 5? I was starting to wonder that too next year. Like, is Green still part of this? Is Wiseman, insert? Is it still Looney again? Maybe nothing changes. You got any thoughts on that, Casey?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think with Steve Kerr, I think the starting 5 could be anybody on any given year. However, I do agree. I think it's going to stay pretty much the same. I mean, Looney, I don't think he's going anywhere. Curry, Clay. I'd love to say Wiseman over Looney just because he's bigger and I think he has more potential, but I think it's just like Looney's just been that guy for the past few years. But I do think on Green is that big question mark. I totally agree. I feel like he just isolates himself from the team. He punches Poole, and then he always is talking about on these talk shows about how he doesn't know if there's a long-term future for him in Golden State. So I think Draymond Green is that big question mark. I wouldn't be surprised if he left, but I think the Warriors definitely need somebody like Draymond Green that can command the defense because I feel like the defense has just been atrocious this year. And so they definitely need somebody that can step in. That's why I loved having Gary Payton because he could do that off the bench, and they don't have that now. And so, I think Kuminga could make a case for starting 5 if, Draymond does leave. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, it does seem like we have 8 guys in our strength because we do. We probably have a lot of starting lineups that we got throughout the year. That the Grizzlies part, I mean, does Klay Thompson bring a notepad with him to these games? Is there, Tyler, is he like, I mean, like, is he like after, I feel like I could see him like pulling something out and like, he writes it down. Because you're right. Yeah, he has got more sensitive. He's got older. And that's fine. He plays well when the Grizzlies do it. So if the Grizzlies are going to talk and he's going to remember it, he's going to perform. I'm all for it. I just find it kind of fascinating how much this man, I got to say they're in his head, but it's not affecting his game in that regard, I guess. Is that fair to say, T?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say. I mean, his demeanor has changed so much pre-injury to after injury. He used to say nothing. He just used to play. He was stoic. And now he's like this emotion. He's like half Draymond Green, like half of Draymond Green as far as like his emotions. It is what it is. I mean, at this point, whatever gets you motivated, I'm all for. If you play well, do whatever you got to do. I love Klay. He's my favorite player the Warriors have ever had. So I'll support Klay on whatever he does. Yeah, it is. It would probably have bugged me if he did this his whole career. That's like, just, I wish he was more quiet about it and just took the notes and didn't say anything to the media if I had my like magic wand to change things, but whatever.
It's almost like he saved it up almost all these years over all these teams. And he's like, I'm just going to use it on the Grizzlies. But every little pettiness is going to come out on this team. Right here. I'm gonna every time I play them, if we beat them, I'm gonna tell them what they did wrong. I'm not gonna hold anything back. There's nothing to that. Your thoughts on that, Casey?
Yeah, I mean, I think Klay is one of the he's one of my favorites too. He's like a local guy. Like he's cool. But I do agree. I think I mean, it just doesn't seem to like affect his play. Like he plays Memphis and they're trying all they can to stop him and they just can't. I think my only critique of Klay this season is just consistency. Like there's like when he's good, he's really, really good. That Atlanta Hawks game is proof of that. And of course this game and plenty of others. But I think too, when Klay isn't on his best day, it's a low point. And so yeah, I think Klay has definitely been really good for us lately. And I think the Memphis game is remnant of that. And we'll see. I mean, I don't know if I consider it like a true rivalry yet, just because I feel like it's been one-sided. The Warriors and it's been one playoff series, and I feel like yes, it's exciting when they play each other in the regular season, but I don't think it's by any means something that is anywhere near like Lakers Celtics or anything like that. I just think it's something that's developing, but it hasn't really come to fruition yet.
Oh, we'll get into Lakers Celtics for winners and losers of the week. That we can bet on, people. All right, we got but for the Warriors part of it here to wrap it up, I do want to just add real quick about that Raptors game. Curry, that's how I want you to play the rest of your. Be aggressive, go into try to get to the paint more. It said it was like his first time getting 30 points with 8 or less 3 attempts. I thought that was fascinating. Like he didn't have to necessarily shoot 12 threes to get like that made. Now, if he can do that on a consistent basis, maybe that's where our team, maybe this team's different. You know what I mean? It just is. It's not the same team. So maybe him attacking the hoop more, maybe that helps us in that regard a little bit there. It always helps to attack the hoop, obviously, but him maybe not just settling as much for the shots, maybe gets everybody else more involved, helps some of our big guys crash the glass when they're in that regard. So any last thoughts on the Warriors, gentlemen? Tyler, you got any thoughts going into this week? Like you said, kind of an easier schedule. Hopefully Wiggins is back as well. I do want to point out he wasn't in that game against the Grizzlies.
I just want to ask you guys a question to finish this thing like I have for the football. Are you open to trading the younger guys to get like Miles Turner just signed a 2-year deal? He's not available anymore. But like get a guy like that, or do you want to keep the young core and have the old core and sort of see how it works out?
Go ahead, JC.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I think I'd be open to trading maybe a few of them. I just don't know about like a package where I'd include more than like 3 or 4. Like I definitely don't think Jordan Poole is someone I want to trade. I feel like he's hitting his like prime right now. But if you were to ask me like, should we trade like a Patrick Baldwin Jr. or Moses Moody or Wiseman, like I definitely would be open to it. I think the Warriors, considering they're in a win now mode, like Curry, he is getting up there in age. So is Klay, so is Draymond. And I think, yes, they need to build for the future, but I kind of trust the Warriors front office for the future anyways. Even though we don't even know if Bob Myers is going to be with us past, long term, I guess. Yeah. So I'd be open to it. But I guess it would also depend who we get. Like, I think the Warriors younger guys stock have definitely risen. And I think if they give those guys more time, I'd love to see Patrick Baldwin get minutes, especially in games like that we're already winning by a lot, just put him in. And they've been doing a good job of that and just kind of develop those guys. That's how Poole got good. I mean, the Warriors team, his rookie year were depleted. They won 15 games out of 65. And that they use those young guys, and Poole was a bright spot. So I think, yeah, trading them would be, I'd be open to it, but I also think like keeping them in long term would work too. So I think it could go either way.
Yeah, no. When they played the Raptors the other day, you saw some guys out there you wouldn't mind having on the Warriors as well, for sure. I gotta ask, Mr. Primetime from Detroit. I'm surprised, right? I think he's from Detroit. I think that's what he said. So if he is, if he wants him on the Pistons next year, then maybe that's his way of getting him on the Pistons. Then, all right, let's keep this going here in the NBA. We're kind of getting to the third quarter part of the podcast here, middle of it. All right, Kings. We've both been tweeting about the Kings a little bit more this year. We've had this guy on in the past, Tom Witt from Sacktown Report on. We got to know him a little bit. Kings Nation. My sister lives in Sacramento a little bit. I usually go to a game once a year. I don't know. I guess my question for them is right now they're in the 3rd seed. We haven't talked about them in a while, Tyler. Can they hang on to that top 6 in the Western Conference and avoid the play-in game? Right now they're they're basically one out of it.
I mean, they're going to have to fend off the Warriors and Dallas. I think they can. I really like this team, actually, with like Sabonis, and then adding Herter was just a great addition. If you can't have too much shooting, they added Monk. And then De'Aaron Fox is just impossible to stay in front. Down the stretch, I kind of worry about who's going to get them a bucket when they need it. Sabonis can be not aggressive enough for me at times, but he is a great passer. He can hit a three. He can do everything as far as a big man needs to do. He's like a Jokic light. I think they will stay in the top 6. I think they're good. I think their roster is very good. I don't know how they'll fare in the playoffs because of lack of experience, but I really like the Kings this year with the additions of all the shooting they added.
I think matchup for them is huge come playoff time. Like who's that matchup for them? Especially if they stay in the top 6 there. It's funny. I would love to go to a game. I haven't been to a game this year. I just would have loved to have gone to check the energy out from the last 5 years where I went once a year. Just totally different energy, I'm assuming. Your thoughts on the Kings there, sir? I know you've got to be impressed with them. Can they stay in the top 6, you believe?
I think they can. I mean, I think the thing that really brings me to them is their depth. Like the guys you mentioned, and then also like Trey Lyles and
what the heck has happened to that guy? Unreal.
Yeah. And then of course Keegan Murray, who's like I think definitely a rookie this year. So I mean it's been really, really good to watch. And yeah, it's the depth, and then also just they've gotten a lot of these wins where they just are clutch. I mean, that's the name of the game for the Kings. And De'Aaron Fox is the clutchest player in the NBA right now. And Domantas Sabonis, I mean, he was a guy that like I always respected, just didn't really think he was elite. And now it's definitely changed my mind. I feel like he's found like this change of scenery from Indiana has been great for him. And I know the Tyrese Halliburton debate is really interesting too. But I do think the Kings will stay top 6. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were towards maybe like the top 3, just given what's been going on this year. I think they just got to stay healthy. Their depth is good, but I feel like in the games where they don't have Sabonis, it's almost like, they're a different team. And so I think that's something that could hurt them. But I think really, I mean, they've been super impressive. I've gone to 3 or 4 games. I've met many of their players. It's just a chill team. They're very fun to watch this year.
Light the beam. I like that little thing they got going on with that. I just remember my sister, like early in the season, she was told me about it. She's like, I was like, what the hell is that thing in the sky? What's that purple light in the sky? The thing with the Kings too, I said this for maybe a few years now, Tyler, is I just really, I wanted it now that we have a chance. Can we ever get a Warriors-Kings matchup? Like, can that be possible? We talked about rivalries at the beginning. Like, obviously this would have to happen for a long time, but we geographically are like an hour and 10 minutes from each other, stadium to stadium, maybe a little farther than that. And we've never played in the playoffs. Like, to me, that's just crazy to think, like, the potential there, if these teams were actually good, how fun that would be. I don't know, like anybody else that crossed your mind, Casey, now that you've been to a few Kings games, and obviously you're a Warriors fan too.
It definitely crosses my mind. Yeah. I mean, I think like the problem with this rivalry is it's just like the Warriors been so dominant. And then like, obviously Sacramento, like it doesn't like, it's kind of the underdog when it comes to sports in comparison to like, of course, San Francisco and then the greater Bay Area. So I think it definitely has crossed my mind. I just think like, if that happens, like what's going to happen here in Northern California? Like we've seen Bay Area, or like Northern California teams play each other in big games. But I feel like this would be like, given just the star power, I just think it would be really, really interesting to see. So I think it could go either way, but I'd love to see it.
What do you think of that, Tyler? Because like in the MLB, right, Giants, A's, we get that a lot. Raiders, Niners, obviously now that's impossible with them being in Vegas, or doesn't quite the same ring to it. Like, that. What do you think of the potential there with the Kings, Warriors, local kind of matchup there?
I mean, anytime it's that close to proximity, it's going to cause fireworks among like fan bases because you have interminglings of like Sacramento fans around Oakland or Warriors or San Francisco.
It's untapped to
Bay Area fans.
That's why. It's
you don't know the potential until we see it. And I think it'll take a little while, but as long as both teams stay relevant or good, then I think it'd be a great rivalry. Because Sacramento fans get a bad rap. They are a passionate fan base, but they have something to cheer for. So I think it'd be really good. Yeah, absolutely. And as an A's fan, you kind of relate to that fan base in some sense. Like, so it's easy to kind of relate to them. For me, anyways, from that standpoint. All right, so that's kind of the NBA this week with the Kings and the Warriors. Maybe beating up a little bit there. Hopefully, we come playoff time. Well, I got a couple other NBA takes we'll get into later in the podcast. I do want to say Embiid, the suck it sign. We got that up there. He got fined for the Royal Rumble that was yesterday, so he got fined for that. Put on a show against Jokic. I don't know why. I found that kind of funny. I don't know. And I have kids. I just thought it was still kind of funny. Probably against the rules. I know it was probably showing him up, but I thought it was. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of funny. Any last thoughts there, Tyler, on the NBA this week or anything? Just the Jokic Embiid matchup I'll get into in my winners and losers. I think that's the match. It just reminds you of old school basketball. The big guys do it a little different nowadays, but it's just fun to see two big guys go at it that are that dominant and that good.
All right, let's keep it going now then. Let's get to the baseball side of it here. We kind of talked about Scott Rowland getting to the Hall of Fame this week, right? He gets in. Any snubs, Tyler? I think for us, it's Jeff Kent, right? Is that like anybody, Casey, you got anybody else before I go back to Tyler with that?
I mean, did Curt Schilling get in or?
No, he didn't get in.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that was one I was thinking of, but I'm not entirely sure, but I think
Curt Schilling is definitely worthy of a snub for sure. I guess for me, the one is Jeff Kent. Tyler, is that the one for you too?
I don't even think Jeff Kent's a Hall of Famer. I don't think any of these guys. Maybe Todd Helton is a Hall of Famer, but I mean, Kent has the MVP, but he has the one.
How the hell is Rowland get in then?
I don't know. None of them should have made it if it's up to me. I don't know. Like now, because if you didn't do steroids, you're like rewarded as, or if you're not on the list, you're like rewarded as a better player than you really were. I know it doesn't make sense to me. I know you guys aren't the biggest Giants fans. I know you respect Bonds. I don't know how Casey feels. Until he gets in, I don't really care. It's all like if these mediocre guys are getting in, like not mediocre, they're good, they're all-stars, but they're not Hall of Fame. My kids will not know who Scott Rowland is.
Well, that's kind of my thought with this. Is like, okay, I want to go with you first, Casey, because like when you say Scott Rowland, what do you think of? Does that name even jump out to you?
No, not really. I mean, like it's just more recent. Like when I think of Hall of Famer, I guess I think of a like player in like the golden age of baseball, and he's like fairly recent, right? I mean, he played a lot, and I know he was good. It's just he doesn't stick out to me as like a pinnacle part of MLB history. So I don't know.
No, I don't know.
And then the thing that threw this all off is the stupid steroid era. Like, does it matter to you if they get the steroid guys get in? As a young person, do you like even care if like Bonds got in? Like, would that ruin it for you? Like, I don't get it. Like, for me, like I'm trying to like, I love baseball, right? And I did have an appreciation for the Hall of Fame. To me, it's just such a joke, and it's ridiculous how they've like kind of made it a mockery. It feels like to the public, because like the public doesn't even like, to me, take it as serious because they're like, well, we're just making up rules as we go along. Like, I don't know. Like, does the Hall of Fame even matter to you in that regard?
I mean, to me, like in terms of Bonds and the steroid era, I think just for me, like consistency is key, right? Like if you're going to let in one guy who did steroids, like let them all in. If you're going to let none of them in, then don't let anyone else in. But I mean, I guess it sort of matters to me. I think it's kind of the same thing as like all-stars. Like if someone's selected to an all-star game, like I care about it, but it's not like that important to me at the end of the day. Like it's an individual accolade, right? And so I think being selected to the Hall of Fame is like really cool. And I think it's cool as a fan, as like a Raiders fan or an A's fan, to say like we have so many Hall of Famers. But at the same time, I think like let guys in that are worthy of it. And with the steroids, I think that's like definitely a slippery slope, just given like, the years and years that they were used and like how many good players were using them. And also like Pete Rose too. I was thinking about him because he was like betting like, against his team or I'm not sure what he did like entirely, but I know he's not allowed in because of that. And there's other players too that have kind of had that similar thing happen to them. So I think definitely like consistency is a big part of it. Like if you're going to let in the steroid guys, like let in Pete Rose, I think.
I agree with you. We've harped on this, and if Bud Selig, the guy who oversaw the league, is in the Hall of Fame, how are you not allowing the players who made the league what it is? I could go. I hate the Hall of Fame now. I mean, it is what I think it means something still, like for the people. But Scott Rowland is not. No one's gonna know who Scott Rowland is in 45 years.
I was on with these guys with this podcast on Thursday, and I kept trying to. I felt like I was Will Ferrell from that movie. With all due respect,
kicking and screaming.
With all due, I was like just ripping on Scott Rowland, but I was like, with all due respect, I was like, Jeff Kent's numbers. I mean, are you kidding me? Just look at it. He had Rowland one Silver Slugger. He got over 100 RBIs 5 times. Kent had more RBIs, more home runs, a better OPS, better slugging percentage. More hits, more seasons with over batting 280. It's just when that stuff happens to me, I'm just like, and he got 45% of the vote. And I know you could say, well, he had the Gold Gloves and that stuff, but like for me, I guess as somebody that was like, Tyler, listen to Bill King in the radio when the A's didn't even have games on TV, blacked out, like just having to like it frustrates me to see like a game I love kind of just fall apart in my sense, in something like I was hoping would be more important as I got older. And I just feel like because of the Roy area, because of the way they voted for some of these guys and the stupid writers that vote 2 people in, I want to slap those people that vote 2 people. For me, I know I sound ridiculously overly passionate about it, but it just bothers me a lot.
Like no one ever said Scott Rowland's better than Manny Ramirez, even in 1996, like when Manny Ramirez was a rookie. What are we doing? I know they cheated, but so was the whole league. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's tough. It's a slippery slope.
It's just the voters have too much power and like they get their feelings hurt about certain guys and like, oh, well, he was an a-hole or oh, this guy was a jerk and that kind of thing. I just don't think that's too much. For me, that just ruins it a little bit in that regard.
But don't you think the Hall of Famers that are already in are the same way? They're like, oh, we're not coming if this guy did. Like, it just, I don't know.
Yeah. Like I said, they
kind of use their power in a weird way.
Bud Selig got in, so we're good there. He did a great job with the All-Star game, everybody. Let's get him in the All right, that's my rant for the day on baseball. Yeah. Let's get into some good things here with baseball. Well, somewhat good. With our team maybe isn't as good, Casey. But I do want to talk. One of the main reasons I wanted to have you on was because you did a documentary on the A's and their stadium issue that they were having. Let me just get the name up here with it. And again, like Tyler had mentioned at the beginning, well done. You did a really good job on it. You did like just not just the editing and all that stuff that's impressive. Just the story behind it was really good. And as somebody that's been going to A's games for a very long time, it did strike a chord with me. And so I just kind of wanted to know, first of all, with that, obviously you're a hardcore A's fan, but what kind of made you think like, okay, this is the time for me to put out a video about the A's getting a new stadium?
Yeah, what really drove me to do it was, one, I had to make a project for my film class, and I knew that I wanted to do something I was passionate about, but I also wanted to educate people because the thing with the stadium is there's so much misinformation about like the funding, and there's a lot of misinformation about the A's as a whole. Like people always say, the A's have no fans. And yes, our attendance is low, but you go out to a game, it's like the fans that are there are passionate and they have reason for not wanting to show up. And so I kind of wanted to tell the full story. I feel like there's a lot that the media tries to do to kind of make A's fans seem like non-existent or make it seem like they're not worthy of a new stadium in Oakland, which they most definitely are. And so I kind of made it with the intention of, yes, we need to get a new stadium, but we also just need respect, because I feel like the A's are one of those franchises that are, should be up there, historically when talked about Yankees and Red Sox and Dodgers. They're one of those teams that kind of like founded baseball in those grassroots, right? In the 70s and 80s, and then of course in Kansas City and Philadelphia too. And so I think, just get the respect for that. And then also I just wanted to, make a film that I could be kind of passionate about and kind of put like geek out on and put my own spin on. So that was definitely something that drove me to making it.
I was curious after watching it, what you possibly because like I said, you obviously are very knowledgeable with the A's. You're knowledgeable about baseball, but like you said, you still are the younger side. And when you do a project like this, I'm sure you learned a lot about maybe the A's history and just maybe. And I'm assuming that was you that interviewed like some of your guests that you had on the video, right? Like, and those guys, you see them out at the games all the time. What was that kind of like? Kind of getting like, I don't know, maybe some different inside knowledge, talking to Brody Brazil, talking to Casey Pratt from ABC7 News, and just like, I don't know, like a different history on the A's and what you've witnessed through your eyes.
It was definitely really cool because I feel like, the people I chose were like of like very different backgrounds. Like you have Brody and Casey who are like both kind of in the news industry, broadcasting industry. And then you have like Hal the hot dog guy. And like, I feel like all those guys just bring something to the table that is really unique. So yeah, I think like from talking about them, especially like you said, like being younger, it was really cool to see like their experiences and also like growing up, going to A's games when it was like more enjoyable to go. Let's just say that. And teams that like actually could contend every year, and like just learning about that was really, really interesting. And then also just like kind of getting into, their experiences as fans from being young, like in the 80s till now, as we're kind of in this state of the A's kind of falling apart and crumbling. So yeah.
So let me kind of cut to the chase on this question, and then let Tyler cut in with, what are the chances the A's stay in Oakland? You feel like, because I mean, you obviously had to deep dive into it a little bit, right? So you obviously kind of have a gut feeling on it now. I believe shortly after that came out, it did like the A's lost the federal the money that they were going to get from Oakland. Sounds like that still could be a possibility heading into the future that they could get that money. I don't know, man. Like 2024, the thing with this is just like it's been happening my whole life too. Like, right, like my whole life, this has been going on with the A's in a stadium. Back to when they had Jason Giambi and all those era guys. So like, I don't know. Like for me, I'm just so pessimistic about it at this point. What's your like kind of thoughts of the A's actually staying in Oakland?
Yeah, well, my answer changes a lot. Like you said, like the federal money thing really hit me hard. I know that like they weren't expecting to get the full amount anyways, but I just know that like John Fisher is not willing to spend any money that he doesn't have to spend. And so the fact that like money will be taken away just makes things complicated. But I think the thing that always makes me more optimistic is just I think Oakland, I went to Las Vegas and I think it's a great city, but I don't think it's suitable for MLB. I just don't like, well, no, I think it's suitable for MLB. I just don't think it's suitable for the A's. The A's are not like the Raiders in the sense that they have, like elite marketing and they're exciting. And they bring fans like from all around the country. The Raiders can do that. And I feel like the A's, like, I mean, they're hardly bringing fans to the game in a city they've been in for 55 years. How are they going to bring fans to the game in a city that they've, an untapped market with baseball, with MLB baseball, at least they have AAA there. So I think I'm going to go with like, percentage wise, like I think I'm 70% they're going to stay, 30% they're going to leave. But I honestly don't think Las Vegas is the greatest option, especially too, because they're not getting public funding probably from Vegas. I think the governor of Nevada said that, like taxes for MLB or any sport like to fund a stadium would probably not be, suitable, just given the fact that the Raiders kind of screwed them. But I think, yes, I mean, it's definitely one of those things where I want to stay optimistic, but like you said, it's really hard to stay optimistic at times, especially like this project was supposed to be done by 2023 and now it's 2023 and they don't even have a shovel in the ground. And don't even know if this is going to get built. And so I just feel like it's a long, tedious process that has been really, really frustrating. And so it's hard to watch.
And I mean, you talk about, I remember San Jose, I remember Fremont, all these things going on with the A's, like where they were going to be at. And Primetime asked the question, if they don't stay, Vegas right now, I think the A's are using obviously for leverage. That's the main reason. Like they had to pick a city. They had to get something to like threaten Oakland because, the town of Oakland, they're like a sloth. They don't move very quickly on things like this. I mean, think about it. They have not had a stadium built since the Oakland Coliseum. That's insane. That's insane. And that stadium, like you did a well job of presenting, was a football stadium for the Raiders. It was never meant to be a baseball stadium in any regard. So it's just like this random plot of land that has a stadium on it. It's just like, and it makes it unique. I'm curious how many games you get to a year out there, or you try to?
Yeah, I get to like probably over 30 per year. Maybe around that mark. I think last year I went to a lot just because the tickets were cheap. And it's just easy to get to. Like, that's what I like about the Coliseum. Like, it's just so chill. You can go right up there and you're in pretty quickly. So I like going a lot. I go to like 30 and, interacting with the players is fun and all that. So it was it was a good year for going, but it was definitely a hard season to watch. So
If me and Tyler got to sit on Mount Davis once, have you ever been up there yet?
yeah, I sat up there for the playoff game in 2019. It was
So
it was a
tiny.
really cool experience. Yeah,
Everything looks like a home run.
Yeah.
Go ahead, T.
Once again, good job. I thought the Giants would be a bigger. I'm glad they weren't. You didn't make them the main story why they're not staying because of the San Jose debacle that is what it is. My biggest thing, if they do stay, is there any way? Because John Fisher is the cheapest owner in all of baseball. Is there any way it turns into Pittsburgh where they just do the same? They get the nice stadium and the waterfront, and does it turn into Pittsburgh where they still won't put any money in the ball club and like? As long if the team doesn't get sold, I don't see a stadium getting built because Oakland isn't going to get. They're going to try and pinch pennies every chance they get, and then John Fisher's trying to pinch pennies as well. And I just don't see where the money's going to come from to build a stadium. I don't know what my question is other than the Pittsburgh part, and then can John Fisher get the job done?
Yeah, well, I think about the Pittsburgh thing all the time, right? Because I mean, you can have a stadium, but you actually have to put a team on the field to bring fans to the ballpark. You have to bring a good team onto the field, not just a team. And so I would, I'm praying that John Fisher sells. Like that's what everyone wants. I think the interesting thing is like, will it happen before or after they get a new stadium? Because the value of the team will exponentially like increase if they get a new stadium, right? I mean, the A's are not super valuable right now because they're not bringing in a lot of money. So, we'll definitely see what happens. But I think the main thing for me is, yes, if he sells, like, I think I can be confident the team will get a new stadium like fairly quickly. I just think John Fisher is slow on those things and he doesn't speak publicly. So, yeah, I mean, I think they still, in my personal opinion, I think they could stay in Oakland with Fisher as owner. Given the fact that he is a businessman and he wants money and a new stadium will bring him money. That's the only way it will. The A's are not bringing in much money right now. So I think that is, to answer that part of the question, I think they can. But I think if they're going to be relevant, if they're going to even have attendance at Howard Terminal for years to come, like, he's just got to either spend money or sell because it's just not working out right now.
That's always been my question with like Tyler is like the ownership's is so crappy and they've done everything everything in the book to isolate a fan base, like to piss off a fan base. I'm wondering, like I said, even if they get does anybody want to give him that money? And like, I don't know, I think a lot of Oakland fans are just over him in general. So I think that's a big part of it too with me. I'm curious as we kind of move away from the ballpark, but stay on the Oakland A's just for a second here. Mm-hmm. Who is your favorite player that the A's have ever had in your lifetime? Is there a guy that you I know, because like you said, you're in the same deal I was really in. My favorite player was Miguel Tejada growing up. I knew the A's would eventually lose him, right? They lose Giambi. They lose all those guys. They did randomly keep my guy, Eric Chavez. But is there a guy that you kind of like, I don't know, just like have kind of attached to here as an A's fan?
I think Stephen Vogt is the one that comes to mind just because he was like just with those great teams. And then he like leaves, comes back, and then like finishes it off with us. Yeah. I totally agree with you. Like, it's hard to have like a favorite player on the A's just because, like, it's very up and down. Like, you never know when a guy's going to get traded. So it drives us away from buying merchandise and like having that attachment. But I also think like a guy like Josh Donaldson, like at least in my lifetime, like those guys were really like that team of like 2012 to 2014 was really exciting. And I think like Yoenis Cespedes comes to mind for me and like Donaldson. But I think like my consensus pick would be like Stephen Vogt. How about you?
I would say for me, like I said, it's Miguel Tejada for sure on my standpoint. I just loved his energy and passion he played with at shortstop. Like I was probably the same age you are now when he kind of came up. So like he just like immediately, him and Tim Hudson, and obviously Giambi too with the MVP stuff as well. But Tejada was just the guy that I just loved because he was so different than anybody else on their team at that point. Right. Our guy Primetime brings up Ricky Henderson. I see when he was playing, I was still. So I was born in 84. So, I mean, like, I kind of saw some of his career, but I didn't get to see, like, the prime of him, like, just dominating the base pass. I've seen the highlights enough. Obviously, a guy like him stands out in Oakland A's lore history. I mean, the field's named after him, for goodness sakes there. So, yeah, he's a big one for me. And then I feel like also for me, a guy that doesn't get enough respect because he was here such a short time and then got traded to the Cardinals is Mark Mulder. I know they have the big three, but he was so good for the A's during the regular season. So him and Zio were two guys I liked as well. And they had some other guys like Jermaine Dye as well and T Long. All those type of guys were like, and like my favorite A's play is where T Long robs Manny Ramirez of the home run with Billy Koch back in the day. That's like my favorite A's play of all time there. So Tyler, who did I forget? I know I forgot some A's guys. Maybe I like Terry Steinbach. Terry Steinbach.
You mean
Who's the guy that was
Sal Fasano?
Sal Fasano.
Big Sal. My favorite. I saw a jersey at an A's game and it said PTBY. What it was, PTBNL, player to be named later.
That's good shit.
That's pretty funny. That's clever. But yeah, I mean, I feel for you guys. The Giants were there. We got lucky. We sold, and we had an owner who was willing to spend private money to build a stadium. And that area was a crappy area. It got built up into this nice area. It wasn't what it looked like today when they built. So I would like the A's to somehow stay where they are and somehow build the city around them into this nice area where there's restaurants and stuff, just because it's easy access to the freeway. It's the parking lot's easy to get in and out of. I don't know. Obviously, that's not your biggest concern when you're an owner, but I love the location where it's at now. Obviously, the stadium needs you need a new one, but I like the location where it's at now. Obviously, Jack London's the best, or the Howard Terminal.
Yeah. I think that's where it's at. I think it's there. They're just not gonna. They're just moving on to something else. I just can't see it happening anywhere else. All right, so that's our A's there with kind of some looking back at some old players there. So I'm trying to think of a game of Stephen Vogt. Were you how old would you have been? You remember the Tigers series with Coco Crisp? Is that a little too? Or that been right there when you're like in your? I'm trying to think if you would have remembered that one.
Yeah, that's kind of what started getting into them. So like that's kind of what drew them, like those yellow jerseys and like
Stephen Vogt got the hit the game before that, right? Yeah. Okay. I did mention Coco Crisp. He was a good A there for a while as well. I enjoyed it. That one season, he was as clutch as you know what in that series as well. My brother and dad say that's still the best crowd reaction they've ever been to was Game 4 when he got the game winning hit off of Jose Valverde to get that game winning run. They still say that was the loudest they've ever heard that place, and my dad's been to a lot of games there. So yeah.
That's cool.
I did catch a Coco Crisp foul ball.
That's right. I forgot about that. You were with me there. That's right. I totally forgot about that. All right. So that's our A's part of it. Like I said, man, like really good job with that video there. And it was just kind of fun getting your perspective on that. And one last question with it. How hard was it to get Brody Brazil, that guy, to come on with you? Did they know you? Like, was that hard to set up, or were they pretty flexible with that stuff? Just because they're in the media, I was just curious.
Well, so I've actually like known Brody for a little while now, because he used to have these, like, you could call into his show and I told him everything about what to do. And so, I met Brody a few times at games, and like it's always nice talking to him. So when I brought up the film idea, like he was definitely like, delighted to do it, because he's passionate about the issue just as much as I am, even more probably. Just he makes so many videos about Howard Terminal and the significance of it. So yeah, no, it was pretty easy, because I knew Brody, just personally on a personal level, but I also knew that like professionally he would definitely want to share his thoughts about this. And then like Casey Pratt, like I didn't know him prior to that, but like everyone kind of in the community kind of knows each other to a certain extent. And I've met the other guys. I met Hal like many times. I've met the other guys that were featured too. So like it was definitely a cool experience. Yeah, for sure, to say the least.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Okay, here, Brian. This was not a fun matchup. We lost both times too, and Verlander's strike zone was way too big in both those matchups. So that was that again. Verlander got that outside corner way too much in that series. I did not like that at all. All right, let's get to the end of the show here. Our last little segment here we always like to do, where we do our winners and losers of the week, presented by SeatGeek. Use the code VSN20. You'll get $20 off your first purchase at any stadium there. Like I said, use that code VSN and get $20 off. All right, guys, our end of the show here. Tyler, who's your winner of the week?
My winner was the game of basketball, just the MB versus Joker matchup. Just watching two big guys go at it. Just a rarity, and it was good to see. They both showed up. Joker went 24, 8, and 9. He only got 12 shots off, which was surprising. He went 8 of 12. And then Embiid had the monstrous game of 47, 18, and 5. 18 of 31. And it's just nice to see centers at the forefront of the NBA in the game and just be the two best players on the court.
Casey, you got a winner of the week?
I got to go with Warriors Grizzlies. Just the Warriors finally, kind of getting back into the swing of things and having, like we talked about, having a really good finish there, and hopefully can keep it up. That's kind of my big winner there.
That's good. All right, I got winner of the week. This is kind of a funny winner for me of the week, and I like our guy here. Losers, yes, you little 15-point lead. You're definitely a loser of the week. I gotta go. I gotta go. The Lakers Celtics last minute of the game to me with winner of the week for entertainment value alone.
For winner or loser?
No, this is winner just for the opposite to me. This just feels like a winner just because of how entertaining it was to me. Maybe I know there was loser moments in it, but it was just too good to pass up as a winner of the week. LeBron James's reaction. My goodness, I just got entertainment out of that alone. Yes, a loser reaction, but I literally, when I saw it on Twitter, I didn't see the game last night, so I got back and I just saw the video. I was like, did he break the score? I thought maybe he broke the scoring record. He was like the way he went down because I didn't have volume on or anything like that. And then I realized he did and how dramatic. And then I got to go winner Pat Bev, bringing out the camera. This is something we've all dreamed of as a fan. Bring out the evidence. Show it right to the official, right in his face. Tell him you suck. Right there. And then what was it earlier in the game? He flops after he gets called for a foul call, or he got called one and he goes down on the floor and just like butterfly style. So I got to go winner. That whole game, Tyler, was ridiculous. Any thoughts on that one?
That was just a terrible ref game. LeBron is so dramatic. Like it looked like Steph Curry when he won the finals, but he got a no call and just on his knees. I don't know. It just you can understand why people hate the man. I don't like.
I want to say this real quick before I let Casey go. I don't want to hear any Laker fans complain about it because you guys used to get a lot of calls back in the day. Let's not forget about those. Maybe you forgot about those early 2000 Kobe Shaq days. I have not forgot about the Gasol Kobe days. Let's hold up the brakes here on not getting any calls. So from a Lakers fan, I'm just gonna get a boo-hoo here from me. Casey, your thoughts on the LeBron James thing there? Yeah, you got to admit it was kind of funny though.
I definitely agree with you on the Lakers thing, and I also think like LeBron gets calls all the time too. Like it goes both ways. Like for all the missed calls against LeBron, I feel like one bad call, yes, it was bad. Like I definitely agree, but I feel like LeBron of all people shouldn't be hysterical about like one bad call because he definitely has been getting. I mean, where do I even start with that? There's been so many that have gone for LeBron because of the officiating, and the Lakers just in general, like you said. I mean, that Kings Lakers series like is proof of that. Like that is like the worst officiated series of all time. And so yeah, I mean, I thought it was kind of funny. I don't like the Celtics either though, so I didn't really care that much. But it is a great rivalry, so we'll see how that phases out. But I think for sure, definitely kind of a funny ending as a Warriors fan, but also just like. Yeah, I would have been mad too, but I definitely think it was pretty hilarious.
Just the reaction was just priceless. That's a meme for a while now. People like I already saw him today. Oh, that's what happens when your kids wake up after 7. All that stuff. They're using that thing for it. Also, winner of the week. I want to shout out our guys at Variety Sports Network here. They came up with an app for our for Variety Sports Network. So if you want to watch our show on the app as well, it just created that brand and doing a lot of big things over there. So I do want to shout out that. That's pretty cool. I thought Tyler as well. So want to give him winner of the week. Loser of the week. Always a fun part. Casey, you got maybe a loser of the week by chance?
Here you go first.
Go ahead, Tyler. You got a loser of the week by chance?
I'll take Brandon Bean. Is Brandon Bean related to Billy Bean by any chance? Does anyone know? He's the GM of the Bills.
Mr. Bean, the movie? Mr. Bean.
I don't know. No, it's spelled Beane. So I was like, maybe he's related to Billy. And he has a B first name. I don't know. Parents tend to do that sometimes. But he had a quote where he said, I don't want to suck bad enough to have to get Jamar Chase. I'd love to have him, but you got to go through some lean years to do that. Does this guy not realize Tyreek Hill was a late pick? His own receiver, Stephon Diggs, was a late pick. Devontae Adams was a second-round pick. You can get a receiver without being top 5. What are you talking about? You sound like an idiot. Don't make excuses. I don't know. It's just a crazy quote. Like, oh, I need a top 5 pick. We need to suck for years to get one wide receiver. Like, what are you doing?
That's funny. Yeah, no, that's a bad one, especially with like anything in the NFL. You can look at the quarterback, right? Purdy, loser of the week in there. I think that's where scouts come in. Maybe a loser of the week there. Casey, it's sorry to put you on the spot there. But you got one by chance? If not, I got a couple here for you.
I have a loser of the week. I mean, this is sort of changing directions, but the Sharks. I mean, they just don't know how to tank. It's really like annoying because like we are horrible, and yet we're somehow beating the Pittsburgh Penguins and scoring 6 goals on them. And so I think, the number one prospect is Connor Bedard. He's supposed to be the next like phenom everyone wants him, and the Sharks are just trying to like win games for no reason. And so that's my loser for sure.
Now, what was the I had them for loser of the week too. It was they remind me they scored a goal up.
Oh.
I feel like with what was it? They scored a goal and then to go up by 2 goals with under 2 minutes left, I believe, because the other team pulled their goalie, so they scored to go up and then they lost the game still. Like to me, that deserves loser of the week as well. I had that as well with it. Thanks, Primetime, for tuning in this week, man. We appreciate it very much. So thanks for tuning in. I wanted to just point that out too. I forgot about that. That's bad in hockey. If you do that, you would. So I got that's a good loser of the week. I had that down. I had Zaire Williams D. I already mentioned that. Rest, missed call, and then to me, loser of the week because you were on, sir. And I kind of saw some of it. Would they have a fan fest Spirit Week to A's? That was pretty pathetic. It looked like there. So I got to go loser of the week, A's Spirit Week or fan fest there. That was pretty bad.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Did you look like it was just at a restaurant?
Yeah, I mean, I went thinking it was going to be like an actual event, but there was just a DJ and Stomper, and then like 15 A's fans. And I left after like 15 minutes because I was like, "Yeah, this is not it." The Giants are having.
Wasn't it at a bowling alley?
Yeah, it was at a bowling alley like restaurant thing, but you actually had to be a season ticket holder to like go in like the bowling area. So, like, if you wanted to like bowl like publicly, you could, but like the actual like event was only for season ticket holders, and then like. The rest of it was just like Stomper dancing to like DJ. It was depressing.
No comments.
That's why that deserves loser of the week there for sure. Casey, with that said, man, I think that's going to wrap up our show here. Fatboy FadeAway episode 121. Sir, thanks for jumping on again with us early here Sunday morning, giving your thoughts on the sports, your movie, the A's, all of it. I just really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I appreciate you having me because it's definitely I've seen like your stuff, and I've like obviously been in contact with you, and it's definitely been really cool to see just come to fruition. So yeah, I'm really grateful you could have me on. Really, really nice. Thank you.
Very cool, very cool. And who knows? Maybe I'll see you at a game one of these times, and we'll get to talk about the A's, and we can maybe we'll be at Howard Terminal one of these years. That's what we can dream about, Casey. We can do it then. So until then, guys, we'll see you out next week. Casey, thanks again, sir. Tyler, good luck today, sir. Peace.
No, I need it. Peace.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody, this is Brandon, CEO of the Variety Sports Network. I just want to say a quick thank you for watching one of the shows here on the Variety Sports Network with tons of other shows and content that's available